Okay, so the recording is in progress. So who wants to get it started? I have the general format for this is going to be, we're going to have our esteemed alum come on and just kind of give a few up to 10-minute presentation about their specialization, what they're now doing, how they're using it in their field, and kind of just tell us a little bit about their success story. And the reason they're doing this is we're hoping that this will inspire you to say, oh my gosh, Kaylin does that every day. That sounds so exciting. Like, didn't even know that was a job. And maybe that's the direction I want to go in. And then you'll hear from Bree and you'll be like, oh, wait, I didn't know that was a thing I could do either. That's something that's really interesting. So we want to see, and again, with these specializations, you are able to mix and match your courses too. So you have free electives. You can take your 3 specialization courses, and then maybe something that Brianna says really inspires you, but you're doing Kaylin's route. But then you're like, but I want to take one course from Brianna's path or something like that. Okay. So oh, there's Julia. Hi, Jules. Welcome.
So sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. We just got started. So a brief introduction. Kaylin is here. She'll introduce herself. I believe she graduated 2021.
Yeah.
Yep. And she's back to share her story. Then we have Brianna. Brianna, you graduated earlier, 2020? When did you?
2021.
Well, oh, also
it feels like longer.
It does. And Julia, I think, is one. Are you 2021 as well?
I am. I did December.
How did I do that? All from the same cohort. All 3 amazing ladies from the same cohort. Hi, Stella. Hi, Silvana. Hi, Ari. Thank you so much for turning your cameras on. So with that said, I'll allow my beautiful alum to take it away. Is there anybody that would like to go first? You should be able to share your screen.
I can go first.
All right, Bree, take it away.
All right, I haven't used Zoom in a while, so let's see how this works.
Are you using?
All right, are you able to see my presentation?
We got it. We see it.
Perfect. So hi everyone, my name is Brianna Moyer, or Bree. Also, I apologize now, my cat, it likes to meow every single time I'm on any type of call. So if you hear meowing, just ignore it. But my specialization was fashion product development. So I'm going to give you a little bit of details about what that entails, what my job looks like, and all that fun stuff. But first, a little bit about me. So as Juliana just said, I graduated in May of 2021. When I graduated, I started off as a sourcing intern at the Children's Place, and I was originally supposed to intern there summer of 2020, but with COVID, it got canceled. After graduation, after the internship, I started as a sourcing assistant on the boys pre-production team. And then recently, back in June, I was promoted to an associate sourcing manager for the basics pre-production. Also in college, I did an internship as a buyer and social media intern at a boutique. Super low key, was more or less just like a summer job that I made into an internship. And then as far as my college involvement, I was involved in FAME, which if you're not involved in, I highly recommend. I was the president my senior year with another student, Emily, which was awesome. And then I was also involved as an NRF student ambassador, I believe my sophomore year, I want to say, and went to one of the conferences in New York City. I also did a scholarship project with them, which is actually the reason I got my internship to begin with. So if you do any type of scholarship projects or any projects, bring them to your interviews, little pro tip. And then I was also an ambassador and gave tours on campus, which was super fun, but not really fashion related. And then I want to first start off by talking about my previous role as a sourcing assistant, just because it's a little bit more close to what you guys would be starting off with. So when I was a sourcing assistant, I was on the boys team. So we looked at all different types of boys fashion and boys basics as well. And with this, a lot of my job was reviewing pre-production samples, reviewing submits, and updating systems. So starting off with reviewing pre-production samples. A pre-production sample is like the last sample a company gets before that garment is produced. So that's kind of like the last like check to make sure everything is approved. And as an assistant, I was in charge of requesting those samples. And then once we got those samples in, passing it to our design team and our merchandising team. Once those teams commented on everything, I would give those comments back to the vendor. Vendor is synonymous with factory. It's basically the same thing. So if you hear me say vendor, it's the same thing as like a factory. And then another aspect of my job was reviewing submits. This was by far the most challenging aspect of my job as an assistant. It took a while to get used to it, but once you knew what you were doing, it was my favorite part of my job. So submit basically is like any piece of the garment. So whether that's the thread, the button, the draw cord, the graphic print on it, the textile print, just like the body fabric. I had like a sweater on and you would get like a little cutting of like the sweater color. And all of that stuff has to match back to our standards, which seems easy. However, when in a toddler, you have a lot of matching sets. So the top may be one fabrication, the bottom's another fabrication, and those have to match each other, which can be a really big challenge because you may have the top fabric coming from China and the bottom fabric coming from Vietnam. So there's different water that they're using. Like there's a lot of different factors that are gonna impact like the way that the fabric is dyed. So that was a big part of my job. Definitely a learning curve for me. And I think we had, I forget what the class is called, but there's like a sewing class you take for the product development specialization. And that definitely helped me a lot with this aspect because I was able to like understand the pieces of the garment and like kind of almost have like a design perspective about it because like you needed to understand what design needed in order to successfully present them with materials. They would go through and comment. I personally used to like sit with my design team and I was super close with them, which I loved because every once in a while they would ask for my input on stuff and like I would end up being the person that made the decision. This definitely isn't necessarily the norm, but something that because I had such a close relationship with my design team, they were trusting of like my opinion of my manager's opinion, which was like really cool because I look at stuff on the website now and I'm like, oh wait, I'm the one that like picked that color. So definitely a great experience. And
was that class you were talking about prototyping?
yes, prototyping.
And
Yes,
I
that's
think
the class I
you
was
really
talking about.
enjoyed that class. I feel like I remember when you were in school that you actually really enjoyed that class because it was
Yes,
like other things that you'll take in our program being in the business school.
definitely. That was a great class. I also have been sewing since I've been like 18 years old. So that also just like helped to actually learn how to sew and not just wing it. And then the kind of last part of like my previous role was updating systems. And I think this across the board, Kaylin, Julia, you guys can probably agree with this. As an assistant, you update systems. It's just kind of a day in, day out thing. And the type of stuff that I would update would be like the cost that we would pay the vendor to produce the garments. So at this time, I was not in charge of like negotiating the cost. I would just put it in the system after it was already negotiated. And you'll see why that's important because my current role is a lot more heavy on the negotiating side. So back over the summer, my company was having a restructure. And with that, I got promoted to an associate sourcing manager. So my current role, I am in charge of 6 different product categories and I just do basics. So I don't do anything fashion related. So the basics is literally like basic t-shirts, sweatpants, shorts, polos, like anything that's like a basic solid color. So with that, what I just talked about on the previous slide doesn't really exist because it's the same programs running over and over again with a combination of maybe like 5 different vendors, depending on what the product is. So a big part of my job is vendor communication. And I will say, if you're someone that likes to get to work and know exactly what your day is going to look like, I recommend the specialization because I get to work. I have like 30 to 60 emails overnight from different vendors because of the time change. And for the most part, I would say I can plan out my entire day, which I really like. Of course, it's business. Every once in a while, you're going to have something that pops up at like 3 o'clock that you're going to have to do. But for the most part, I know what my day is going to look like from the beginning of the day. And then another big part of my job is costing now. So I'm in charge of negotiating the cost that we pay for the garment, which is honestly really cool. So on the fashion side of it, you can negotiate by like taking off, like if you have a special trim on it, like you can take that stuff off. In basics, you can't do any of that. So you're really just being like, hey, vendor A has this cost, vendor B has this cost, vendor C has this cost. This is our best cost. We need this vendor to come down to this cost. It was very intimidating because my first week of being promoted, we had in-person vendor meetings, and my manager kind of just threw me into it and was like, all right, negotiate your costs. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but it was honestly like being a young female in the industry, like it was really cool just like sitting there and being like, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna negotiate this cost down. And then going off of that with allocations. So we also, once we do all that cost negotiating, we determine where the product is going to be made. So a big thing with my company is moving products to Africa for production because there's no duty, which is like an extra fee that you pay on top of it. And then kind of going off of like the extra fees, there's also these things called MOQs and MCQs. MOQ is minimum order quantity. So vendors will require a minimum order to produce a specific style. And then there's also MCQ, which is minimum color quantity. So that's more at the fabric mill side. And they may require a certain amount of kilograms, which then we have to translate into units for the planning team to review. And then also my current role, I still do look at samples, but I more look at them at like a high level and for a like fit approval side. But yeah, I will say there's a lot of math, but it's very simple math. Probably the most complicated formulas I do are variance and then are like landing. So we have the cost that we pay the factory, but then we also have the cost that calculates in shipping, the duty, which is like taxes, and like also the freight. So I also have to like calculate that, but every company has like their own way of doing that. And then this is my contact information. So feel free to contact me, add me on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to like give you more details. I think that's everything. Juliana, is there anything else you wanted me to like go back and touch on?
Amazing. No, so I think it's amazing to see how much Brianna has learned from being in the industry, the amount of time she's been in, and how much she's taken from her courses. I guess, can you tell us a little bit about what made you sign up for this specialization? Like what interested you when you started in the specialization?
Definitely. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. When I first like went to college, my original like career goal was to have my own business. So I thought about going into Kaylin's specialization and doing like the global brand strategy. However, kind of like as I was like looking into stuff, like I got really into sewing, and like I think I just found like the supply chain to be super interesting and liked the idea of like taking a garment apart and figuring out what the cost of each part of the garment is. It's a puzzle, and I find that like very interesting. I always say, whenever I like say that I work in the fashion industry, I always say that like I work on like the nitty-gritty side of it because it's a lot of like small details. You're like working with I think like a challenging aspect of it is that there's a language barrier sometimes, which is definitely something that like you learn to communicate and like you get used to it very fast. But yeah, I think I just like found the idea of costing like very interesting. And then once I did the internship, I was like, okay, like I love getting to work with the design team. Like I just like I'm a numbers person, but I could not do buying. I couldn't do it. So it definitely is kind of like it's like a very analytical, but not quite in the same way that buying is.
Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. So so you take 3 classes. I'm trying to find the names and numbers
I
of the
know, I
classes so
know.
that I can send them through in the chat, which I will do.
Mhm.
Which of the classes do you feel maybe helped you the most or really clarified your path for you within the
Ooh.
specialization?
I would say it was probably the prototyping class. Just because of like that, like garment construction and like learning about that. It was honestly a combination of that and a scholarship project that I did, which like is not part of like the core curriculum, but a combination of both of those was kind of what made me like, okay, like yeah, like this is exactly what I want to do. Um, but yeah, I would say the prototyping class.
Awesome. Awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. And I'm going to let everybody speak and then you all can ask questions as needed for the different speakers. Okay? So thank you, Bree. That was awesome. Who wants to go next, Kaylin or Jules?
I don't mind going.
All right, cool. Jump in, Kaylin.
Okay. Give
And
me
if you
one
see
second.
me creeping taking pictures, that's just because I'm proud and I'm putting them up on the
Oh, that's so kind. Of course. Okay. So can everyone see this? All right.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Kaylin Owens. I'm super excited to be here. I currently work at Free People as the creative brand marketing coordinator. So just to start off, I actually applied to Free People and started a temporary position as the marketplace coordinator. So what that means is that Free People has a marketplace. Let's just say we compare it to Amazon. We can call it like a hub, but then there's different rooms or a home. We have different rooms in that home. And we could say that the different rooms are where the vendors live. And depending on maybe like their product category, right? So what that means is that in the Free People Marketplace, there's vintage clothing that vendors sell. So that's one room where the vintage vendors live in. Then it could be pets, so that's another room where the pets vendors live in, and so on and so on. So in that role, I was helping the creative marketing team, meaning that like I was collaborating with our members and like pitching story ideas, as well as doing Pinterest boards to market what the vendors having to show off with their products. And I was also helping with the operations team with helping with customer relations and doing kind of like all the a lot of the back end things with my teammates in regards of like product upload, accepting product, communicating with the vendors on maybe different standards, or like when they had technical difficulties, what that meant. Also helping with, collaborating with the buying team. And if there was products that my team member was buying, then that means putting that into the system and helping with pricing and being in the room when we were buying product for a new campaign or launch. So being as though that was my first role in temporary, I was promoted into the creative brand marketing coordinator officially in April of 2022. So what that means is that in my role, I have like these 4 bubbles, which is research, create, collab, and manage. So with research, that means that, okay, we're going on the different social media channels, we're opening magazines, we're watching movies, we're watching shows, right? We're seeing, okay, what can I get inspiration from? What is the inspiration to create like this vision, right? Let's look at competitors. What are competitors doing? What aren't we doing? What could we do better? What can we expand on, right? So what that means is that we're creating that vision. We're creating that vision for a specific project, and we're able to collab within creating that vision with the different teams. So that could mean photo shoot, that could mean social media team, that could mean public relations, that could also mean copy, making sure that words are accurate, research is being done. We can also fact check, and we can also collaborate with the merchandising team to collect samples, because what that means is that the merchandising team might buy some clothing on the Free People website, but my team might be like, hey, I have this vision and I want to feature the tops, or I want to feature the intimates garbs, right? So we'll connect with the merchandising team and say, hey, can we order these? These are some samples, like let us know what's available, and so on and so forth, right? So then what that also goes into is managing the project, managing the vision. We have to manage in terms of organizing information, making sure that contact is up to date, making sure that dates are up to date, making sure that tracking financial information is up to date as well. So these are some of the components that goes into my job role. And for some images, just wanted to show some visual display of just kind of like some projects that I've been fortunate to be involved in. So like at Free People, there's a Care FP team, which really digs into the sustainability factor of the company or the community aspect of the company. And we connect with an organization called Girls Inc. So we host, the team hosted a Girls Inc. Mentor Day, which was really cool. And my team and I really got to be involved and do different activities with some of the participants. And then there's a project for Holiday that I was able to be involved in, and that could be collecting talent information. So for instance, like we wanted to feature home office employees. We're collecting a list of home office employees, the departments that they work in, getting them samples, helping with the creative direction of the photo shoot, formatting literally the mock of the visuals. So that's something else that my team does. Will help like mock, will basically like help mock up something, and not something, will help mock up a vision or a project. And then we collaborate with our graphic design team to solidify that. And they will like add their own spin on it as well. And then with, like I said, mentioned before, Pinterest, that could mean like creating Pinterest boards, even like changing the imagery within the Pinterest board or other social media channels just to make sure things are up to date. My team also helped with doing a Gather for Good event, which is just a series of events that happens around the country. And we did something in collaboration with Klarna where there was a speaking engagement and entertainment there, and all the ticket proceeds went to William Way, a local LGBTQ plus organization. And here are just like Free People, like Free People times Rose Bowl, which is the vintage marketplace side, and just showing like what that social media marketing looks like. And also I was involved in my job's Black ERG. So they hosted a Juneteenth event, and I was able to collaborate with someone else in a different urban brand. And we were putting together email marketing. So this is just some photos from that specific event. But all in all, this is just like a small piece of just kind of what I do and I'm able to be a part of.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. So I'm going to ask the same of you. I actually put the courses that are taken for each specialization in the chats. So you can see under Kaylin's specialization, she took classes brand management, apparel merchandising management, and business of licensing. So which one of those did you enjoy all of those classes? Did you look forward to them? And what made you think that you wanted to go into this area?
Yeah, for sure. So I loved all of my classes. The one that definitely sparks is definitely the brand management. I think because brand management really challenged me, but it also really sparked my interest in being like, oh, competitors, what are people doing in the market? How do I market? Like, what emotions do you get from marketing? I think about automatically when growing up, going into stores, right? I'm looking at the different, pictures of models wearing the clothing. And I'm like, oh, well, like this person is representing that brand. So this brand is means something. What emotion am I getting from that? Do I feel connected? Like, can I be a part of that? You know, so I think that brand management class really sparked that interest in me, as well as apparel merchandising management and learning about how to develop stores and just like connecting with my classmates, and business of licensing. I love that class because I was definitely able to create new projects. Like I remember I did something with Children's Place and Build-A-Bear Workshop. Like I created an idea with that at the time. So I loved all my classes, and I definitely feel like it helped like pique my interest. And I feel like being as though I'm in a I was in a specialization that had to do with marketing. When I definitely applied to the company I work at now, Free People, I was like, okay, this sounds like something I could help contribute. I want to be a part of like how I want to be a part of a vision, and who is being connected to that vision, and how products can be featured, what these brands look like, what the people behind the brands look like. I think that was really important when my manager and I were meeting the business owners, and learning why they started that brand and why they want to be a part of Free People, and why we want to be a part of them. So I think that like all in all, that's what definitely like, gravitated towards my position. So yeah.
I love that. I love hearing how you enjoyed the classes. And actually, I forgot to bring up to Brianna integrated technology, which I think is such a unique class. It's taught by Professor Wyatt, and every single student that has ever taken I don't know why I haven't taken it yet, but every single student who has ever taken the class just rants and raves about it. And then students that are not in the specialization specifically take that class.
I didn't realize that was a specialization class for me, actually.
Yes.
That was by far my, like, I think that and GFI were like by far like my favorite classes.
And you have to say that because you took GFI probably with me, and then you took
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
I thought your grade did.
No, I had Professor Kim still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that class, like
My husband is laughing at me in the background. He's like, haha, you weren't the favorite.
But no, integrated technology, like even if like you don't do fashion product development as your specialization, take that class. I took it with both of my roommates who were buying specializations, and like we used to have so much fun just like sitting on our couch, and like we'd all be researching different projects, and just like it's just fun. And like you just see like what's out there. And now like I live right by New York City, and when I go to like cool retailers, I like geek out because I like know more stuff about it.
Very different class, right? It's
Yeah.
so different than anything else you could take at any other university, and it was developed by Professor Wyatt, so she knows her stuff. All right, awesome. So now I'm going to bring it to Julia. I know I was one of Julia's favorite professors.
Oh, of course.
So I'm
going to be talking about one of your classes.
I'm looking at my husband very hard right now because I just make myself embarrassed. But yes, take it away. So let's talk about your experience with your specialization in buying and merchandising.
Absolutely. So can everyone see my presentation okay? Okay, great. So yes, as Professor G said, I took the buying and merchandising route, and I'll start a little bit, even though I didn't include it in the slide. I thought it was great that Bree did, and I wanted to say that when I was in college, I did participate in a lot of extracurriculars that I love that Jefferson has, but I definitely have to plug FAME because I loved my experience with it. I loved learning more about the industry outside of class too. And Bree actually helped me become, I guess, co-president role, like take on part of the president role after she graduated. So that was a really cool experience. And kind of moving on to, I feel like the whirlwind that was like the year after I graduated, having some initial career experience. I started off kind of towards the end of my last semester on LinkedIn, making connections, and I actually received an opportunity from my area, but it is a national network actually in the golf industry. So I took an internship as an assistant merchandiser, kind of learning the initial buying expectations in that setting, but then also kind of taking on the sales floor POS responsibilities that you'd see just in retail in general. And I feel like I learned so much about that especially being in like sportswear and being in a more niche role than I was expecting. I kind of was seeking women's apparel roles at the times, or maybe even in like accessories or furniture, things like that. But this was such a cool opportunity to get to experience. I traveled a little bit for them and ended up developing a merchandise manager role from that internship, where I got to take on full experience buying product for the shop and coordinating with the other 6 or 7 golf club locations across the US, which was really, really cool. But come April, around April, May of 2022, I did actually receive an opportunity to interview with Urban, specifically for an Urban Outfitters role. So now I'm right across the street from Free People where Kaylin is. And I was able to go on to the team initially as an assistant buyer for women's sweaters, where I've stayed for the past almost year now, which I can't believe. It's gone so fast, but I was on Barenet tops for a little bit, so I got to explore some other merchandise, but primarily my skill set has been in sweaters production, design, buying, working with all of these teams, which I'll talk about later too, is where my niche has been lately. So and then to kind of get into some of my takeaways from the specialization while having my career in practice this last year, I wrote down kind of 3 pillars that really stuck out to me. But of course, this isn't the limit to what I had learned in my time at school. And I'm happy to discuss like anything further as well. But the first thing I wanted to highlight was retail math. I'm sure that it has been mentioned just like immediately, even in the first semester of being at school. I feel like retail math was brought to my attention right away and carried with me through my 4 years, especially in buying operations. We really went through all of the terminology, and I find that just so essential to my role. And not only having the idea of how to perform equations and get the numbers that you need in the buying role, but also to kind of understand what the terms mean going into the role. Because I feel like, at least in my experience, like a really great manager will always like give you the time and the grace to learn the retail math again, keep learning it, keep refining your skills and accuracy. But overall, just like being able to go into meetings and go into settings where you have to be kind of quick on your feet, already knowing the terminology and understanding how to interpret and use it is really so helpful. And then moving on to my next point, I had kind of taken away this, I guess, term of like intuition and practice. And what I mean by that is throughout the 3 classes I had taken in my specialization, among the others in the program, I felt that our professors taught us that intuition is also an important part to the role, especially in buying. And kind of what I mean by this is like having that gut reaction when you're in these settings and having these pivotal conversations with your teams. At least I can say in the buying setting that I like will be among my peers in cross-functional teams, kind of having to decide quickly what we think should stay in the assortment, what shouldn't, at what quantity, and kind of just really trying to make this jump decision based on what we think our customer is going to do, how she's going to buy, what she's looking for he or them. But I feel that overall, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Overall, with the gut reaction, it kind of like helps you really kind of differentiate yourself, your opinions, your I guess your
embrace your being natural, right? Like have
Yeah, like your
natural vibe.
attentiveness, yeah,
Yeah,
like to the role, like kind of like what your feedback brings to the table is, I guess, kind of like what I was trying to gather from that. Thank you. Yeah, I just I feel like having kind of that gut reaction, being able to hone in on um like what you've learned so far and things like sales reports, maybe being the customer yourself in the setting. I know when I've been kind of going through this past year, at least in women's sweaters and being at Urban Outfitters, I feel like I identify with our customer a lot, and I feel like that's kind of helped in conversations. But overall, to tie it back to the classes, and what I took from them in this theme was I actually remembered like a couple of different anecdotes from even you, Professor G, kind of talking, especially in buying operations, when there was actually this one story where you were talking about these like long denim skirts, and it was kind of a like not sure if she's gonna like it, like, or even like questioning, like, do I like this? Or like, are they gonna like it? Is this gonna be a success? And kind of kind of jumping into that decision and saying, like, okay, like we're gonna put numbers behind this, we're gonna see if this sells. And sometimes it blows out and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is really cool to see like my intuition literally creating some good, and it's really cool.
I love that you remember that story. And whoever goes
Yeah.
into buying and merchandising specialization, you will surely hear that story of again.
Yeah.
I tell it every semester.
Yes. Yeah, I loved the anecdotes like that, and that really all came back to that theme for me because I felt like um a lot of times when I get feedback and just like how I've been performing, I think a lot of times my management really does appreciate like having um an educated opinion like in the room that is like eager to learn but also participate. So yeah, I thought that was a good point. And the last point I wanted to highlight is product life cycle. We delve into this especially in product development, and I think overall, and kind of speaking to what Bree was mentioning in her role, I, in buying, work pretty closely with production and design. And I find that it's really essential, having learned the foundation of the product lifecycle from concept to um, really its finalization when it's out, it's available for sale, being able to understand where it goes, who's handling it, why they're handling certain aspects of the product, and what needs to be done in order to get the product to that final point. I think really helps me work effectively with cross-functional teams because at least in Urban Outfitters setting, I feel like sometimes I think about buying as like kind of like the cross-functional glue a little bit, because we are the communication between our design partners, our production partners, all the way to our planning and allocation partners, who don't normally get the FaceTime with each other on the day to day. We kind of help facilitate that. So I think being able to kind of like understand what they need from buying and vice versa is like a really great foundation to have. So yeah, those were my three major points. I know that there were probably some vague terms that I might have thrown out there, having been in the role for a little bit of time and just like being used to the lingo. So if there's anything I didn't go into depth into about buying specifically or anything about my day to day, I'm more than happy to talk about it. And added my contacts below, like Bree did. More than happy to chat offline about it too. And thank you guys for your time.
Job. So as you can see, every single one of our alum has talked about how cross-functional the fashion world is, right? So Kaylin has talked about how she works with other cross-functional business partners. Same thing with Bree, same thing with Julia, and they have all talked back to how they work with each other. So when we give you group work in classes, it really is for a reason, right? You're learning to deal with other personalities, you're taking on different roles within the supply chain process, et cetera, et cetera. It's never going to end for you guys in this industry. We're always working together. We're always being team players. So I love to hear that you all are experiencing that in a positive way out in the workforce. We are very, very proud of everything that you're doing. Thank you for being here and being so poised. We're so proud of the working career women that you all have become, and look forward to seeing much more of that. So with that said, do we have any questions? You can ask generalized questions to our alum. You can ask specific questions to alum. Whatever strikes your fancy, they're here to talk to you. So take this time to hear from people that are around your age instead of just hearing from me and Nyoka all the time who just drill it into your heads. Pick their brains. This is your time. And if you're shy, you can write it in the chat box and I'll ask for you. That's okay too.
Hello.
Hello? I think that was me.
I have a question.
Christine has a question.
I didn't know how to raise my hand. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Christine.
If any of you felt say like particularly like discouraged when picking out your specialization or anywhere like in the role of it, how did you get out of that? If that happened?
I'm happy to contribute to this. I feel like yeah, I think that like there were some times where maybe I felt like discouraged in the sense of like, is this maybe really my strong suit, or is this what I want to go into? And I think that a lot of times in our careers we're gonna have those like, questions pop up once in a while. But I felt like when I like am in those moments, like more or less really chugging along, kind of like throwing myself into opportunity. Even if, my mind changes later, maybe you take this one specialization route and you decide to change your mind later, like that's okay too. I think just like getting the experience, excuse me, getting the experience and really just like being able to learn something new continuously is still really valuable. And I hope that helps.
Going off of that, one of the great things is you do have like extra classes built into your schedule. So if you are torn between two specializations, like I know I think I took the brand strategy class just because I was like, hey, like if I want to have my own business one day, like that is like part of my career path I see for myself. That class is important for me to take. And also kind of as Juliana was saying, once you're in industry, you're working so closely with the other areas that even say like I specialized in buying, but went into product development, having that understanding of how buying works is only going to make me better at product development because I'm going to know what information they need from me.
And from a curriculum standpoint, you can take classes from other specializations, right? And just put them into your electives. So the more fashion classes you can take, the better, right? Because it makes you a really well-rounded graduate. Great questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a quick question, just like as a general type of thing. What is the difference between the product development class that the buying and merchandising specialization takes versus the product development specialization? Because I'm not sure if I want to go into buying and merchandising or product development, but I saw that the buying and merchandising has product development. So I'm just like curious on how that works.
So Bree, did you take the product development course, Bree?
I didn't take it.
Okay, so Julia can talk to the product development course within buying and merchandising. And then Bree's path as a whole was the product development course, that specialization, right? So she's really working on, as you heard her say, a lot of almost like the back end of the supply chain, right? Working with sourcing, with QC, with prototyping, QC or QA, quality assurance or quality control. Whereas product development that is taken in the buying and merchandising area is more about, well, Julia, tell her about your experience in the class. I don't know why I'm talking for you guys.
No, sure. Yeah, I feel like when I was in the course, I think we got a lot of insight into like those back end, those very involved processes and truly developing the product. Professor Wyatt gave us a lot of videos and lessons kind of like breaking down like the parts of that process. And then we had actually moved on to doing a project or a competition with the, I believe it was it the AATCC, I think? Yeah, the competition where we really got to kind of like put that knowledge to the test and really see if we could kind of formulate this kind of like product truly from start to finish, like with all the involvement of everything to the foundation of it to like the marketing of the product, getting it out there. So that was the extent of the class in my experience. But Professor Wyatt, if I miss anything, please feel welcome to elaborate.
What was the getting myself together? I just came in from work. What was the question?
So it was really what the biggest difference. So Gemma had come on and asked about the difference between the product development course specifically within the buying and merchandising specialization and the product development track as a specialization. And then added on top of that, we had something in the chat from Emily that is asking about the integrated technology course.
Oh, okay. Did that help, or do you need me to expand?
No, I think I have a good idea about everything. Thank you.
Okay. I always say though, in terms of being a buyer or a stylist or working in trends, you should always have the knowledge of how products are constructed. So from a buying lens, it's important for you to understand the developmental cycle, whereas in the entire specialization, the courses are grouped to further your understanding of the different actions that take place throughout the supply chain. So hopefully I didn't confuse you. So it's like one versus a series of shows, to use an analogy.
For all of you Netflixers.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has a question?
Juliana, do you want me to touch on the question in the chat about integrated technology?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is a class that Nyoka runs. And if I remember right, I think we only met like once a week. I took it during COVID, so I don't know how things are now. But basically Nyoka would give us like a list of either like articles, videos to kind of like pique our interest. And then we would go through those and pick either 1, 2, 3, depending on like what the week was. We basically pick a topic and then dive deeper into that research. It was very interesting because you were always able to research like what you found interesting, which I enjoyed because you weren't stuck researching something that you had no interest in. And it was really cool for me because I took that class with 2 of my roommates. And like the 3 of us would like talk about what we were researching, and we each researched something completely different every single week. So it was cool just like getting to talk to them and be like, oh, like Grace and Caroline, like they looked at like this, but like I was looking at this. And the other cool thing about that is they were buying specializations and are now buyers, and I was product development. So like what they found interesting was a little bit different than what I found interesting. Like I focused a lot on like robotics and like the like supply chain technology, whereas they were more likely to look at something that was happening like in a store.
And just a reminder, students love that class. So Bree isn't the only one that loves that class. Students, I've never heard a single negative thing about that class. And it's a great class to have no matter what specialization you choose. So you can always choose to add that in to your electives. Same thing with buying, right? You could be in brand management, but buying is just a great skill to have. And I promise you, just because it's numbers, it's not that scary because it's all done for you in Excel. If you know how to use Excel and you like to be organized, I promise you, you can be great at it. Same thing with like visual merchandising. That's a great asset to just have, right? Like being able to go into the city and do windows and have that on your resume is just a great asset. But you don't need to be in buying and merchandising. You could be in Bree's area or in Kaylin's area and take visual merchandising and also take integrated technology. And then you pretty much are doing all the specializations, right? But you're getting all of that fashion knowledge instead of using your elective on something that, you know, may not serve you as well. Use it in taking our fashion courses because they are pretty great. Neoka developed a great a great integrated technology course that you can't get anywhere else, and you might as well take advantage of that, right? I have a question for you guys. Do you have any inklings on which direction you want to go in? If I were to see a raise of hands, who thinks they might want to go into brand management? That could be like social media, that could be marketing, that could be lots of different things in that area. Emily's raising her hand. Very cool. Two Emilys are raising their hand. Ariana, and then is that Christine or Naoma? Because I know you guys are together.
It's me, Naoma.
Okay, Lexton. Also, for those of you I haven't met yet, very nice to virtually meet you. I'm excited to have you in retail.
Renee,
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, Renee has her hand up. Yeah, Renee has her hand up. So
and Ari.
6. Ari too? Ari, you
Mhm.
have, oh yeah, you have your hand. Wow. So 7 people interested in brand management. Very cool. All right, put your hands down for me. What about anybody interested in the product development supply chain route that Brianna discussed today? Ooh, Sydney, Gemma, Sierra. Very nice. I'm trying to see if anybody with their pictures is raising. I see you, Silvana. And then is it Christine? Yeah, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 7 interested in brand, a global brand strategy, 5 interested in global supply chain, or I'm sorry, it's not called global supply chain, global product. I'm sorry, we've changed this like 5 times. Hold on.
Fashion product development.
Okay. And then put your hands down. And I don't even know if there's anybody left. Is there anybody? Well, Jackie is probably going to raise her hand because she's already in my buying class. Anybody interested in buying and merchandising specialization? Gabriella, Sierra, you're also interested in that. Chris, awesome. You're already doing that, Chris. You have your own business. Awesome. Jackie and Gemma. So there's some people that are crossovers, and that's great, right? Oh, Christine, are you also maybe interested in that? Cool. Great. That's great. So a lot of you already have a really good direction. We're coming up on time, and I don't want to monopolize too much more time. So are there any more questions for our alum?
I
And
just have one
Julia,
last question.
Can you stay on for a little bit? I have a question for you before you jump off speakers. But please answer your question. Ask your question.
I just have a question for all 3 of them. Did you find that your internship opportunities really helped you to figure out what position you'd have after graduating? Like, did that help you to really make a decision on what you wanted to do?
I'll say yes. My internship experience, as well as I feel like just being enrolled in the courses I was in and also pursuing scholarships. So from one of my internships, I was helping like doing, I guess, merchandising and doing like inventory count. I remember I was taking photos of products of the person who I was interning, who is a entrepreneur, fashion designer, all of the above. So I feel like that was helpful to learn kind of like from the creative side, helping her out with that. And she has a small own business. So like, I think it's very much like you get that one-on-one time a lot when you're focusing on a big project like that by technically yourself, but with the support of like your team members and interns. And I do feel as though one of the scholarships I did apply for, which I feel like is FSF. Oh my goodness, that scholarship, that really like put me on the path for where I am, honestly. So like, okay, not saying you have to apply to that one, but I do feel as though I do encourage applying to scholarships in general as a whole. And my experience with the FSF, that one challenged me a lot because it was something that I believe I was intimidated to pursue beforehand, but because I had the support of my professors and my mentors, and being as though I had experience with researching and other class projects, I went for it. And that was a long, quote unquote, long process, but nonetheless, it made me going into my last semester of school so much more easier because I was like, I'm on top of this. I feel so much more confident with my ideas. I feel so much more confident researching. I know I can do this because I did that. So like, all in all, I feel as though like, put yourself out there with your courses, scholarships, doing school organizations, and it was something else I said, but yeah.
Just calling out that all of our successful alum have mentioned student groups, scholarships, extracurriculars in the program. Okay. All of those things are important to getting amazing jobs and being successful like them. Get involved in brag, get involved in fame, do the scholarships. Come to our meetings, respond to our emails. We want you to do well. We want you to be the ones here in a couple of years. That was
all the things that we keep preaching. So thank you from a alumni perspective now. Thank you so much for confirming that. And no, we did not pay them to say that. But I really appreciate that because we have had a significant number of students who are not participating in scholarships at all. So we're trying to encourage them.
They're very capable. All of them are very capable, just like you were, but there's just a lack of interest for some reason.
Especially our immersion students too.
I actually have a little scholarship tale that may help a little bit. So Julia and I and another student did a scholarship. I think it was between my sophomore and junior year. And during that scholarship, like the way we broke it up, I did like the product development aspect of it. And I had an Excel file in which I like had the breakdown of like the cost of goods and like did all of the math. I brought that to an interview and was hired on the spot for an internship. So like, that's something that like, I was so stressed out about like interviewing places, but like when you have that work, and I can also tell you now I'm like in the process of interviewing interns, anyone who shows up with like actual like tangible work, even if it's not related to like, I was fortunate that like mine was related to exactly what I was like interning for, but even like I also brought a copy of like the Fame magazine to my internship interviews, bringing some type of like tangible information, your GFI project, any type of like your immersion project, that is so important because hiring for an intern, all you care about is just that that person is like willing to learn and like put in work to like learn something.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And
So
sometimes it's not about winning. It's putting the work in, because not everyone on this call won, but they demonstrated that they had the ability to do the work.
that's right.
They put the work in.
So students, current students, you will be receiving an email from me. Okay. I know we said at the last meeting, Janine Bailey Allen, this time it's going to be from me. Okay. Juliana Guglielmi is how it's going to come through. I think that's how it shows up. All of you on this call will be getting, I'm going to send through the document that you need to fill out and you need to sign. You can do it on your computer. You just type in your campus key, your name, your phone number, your address, all of that good stuff. And I will get these filed and sent to the registrar for you. Okay. So you won't even have to worry about going to your advisors, because you all were so great to show up here tonight. I will personally sign all of them for you and get them filed. All right. So I'm going to send that through tomorrow. If you can fill it out as soon as possible, the better. Get it off your plate. It'll show up in your degree works and you'll feel really good about it. And you'll be able to sign up for your specialization course for the fall. All right. So I will send that through to you tomorrow. So look out for that. Fill it out as soon as you can and send it back to me. We'll get it signed off on and we'll get you rocking and rolling. All right. And let's give
Thank
a
you.
virtual round of applause to our 3 amazing alum. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences. I think it's always amazing how much we can learn from you, even Professor Wyatt and I. So great to hear your expertise and how poised you all are. We're really, really proud of you. And I can say that from the whole team. Okay. So with that said, alum, can you stay on for a second? And students, expect an email from me tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And if I don't see you, have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Oh, let me stop recording.